You've been working hard on making your narrative into a piece of writing that someone would want to read. You've added a hook to get your readers interested, and you've added sensory details to really make your story pop. You're getting closer to your goal of an awesome narrative, but there's something else you need to consider. Most personal narratives include dialogue, which is the academic way to say that characters speak in your story. Dialogue helps bring that realistic element into your stories and helps the reader relate even more to what's going on in your narrative. It's difficult to tell a good story without dialogue. Otherwise, your readers just have to imagine or infer the conversations that went on in your story. Today's video will teach you two things: how to make your dialogue sound authentic through your word choice, and how to correctly punctuate the dialogue that you do write. First, let's talk about some ideas for writing good dialogue. The first step is to figure out where you should insert dialogue. A good rule to follow is to think back on the event you're writing about and to find spots where you, the narrator, are interacting with other characters. For example, let's say you're writing about taking a flight somewhere. I doubt that you made it all the way through the airport to your plane without speaking to anyone at all. Some people you probably spoke to were the customer service person at the counter, the person who scanned your ticket, and the flight attendant once you were on the plane. Let's take the flight attendant, for example. Think about what you said to her or what she said to you. Maybe it's been a while since you experienced what you're writing about. It's okay to do some creative writing here and do your best approximation of what words were said. Let's say we decide that the flight attendant asked you what you'd like to drink. Your conversation might look something like this. As I sat down in my seat, the flight attendant approached me. "Would you like something to drink?" she asked. "Sure, I'll take a Sprite," I said. Notice that this is a little bit more interesting than if I just wrote, "I sat down and the flight attendant asked what I wanted to drink. I asked for a Sprite." You can repeat this technique anytime you feel that the conversation would add something to your essay. Don't try to add dialogue every single time someone might have said something insignificant like, "Do you have change for a 5?" If it's irrelevant or unimportant to the story, leave it out. Next, we're going to talk about how to correctly punctuate dialogue. I'm going to list out some rules for you to follow. Make sure you write them down on your note sheet. Rule number 1. Every time someone is talking, you must surround their words with quotation marks. Quotation marks look like this. Let's take a look back at my conversation with the flight attendant. As I sat down in my seat, the flight attendant approached me. "Would you like something to drink?" she asked. "Sure, I'll take a Sprite," I responded. The first sentence, "As I sat down in my seat, the flight attendant approached me," is not being spoken out loud by any characters, so I don't need quotation marks around it. However, the next sentence is being said out loud by the flight attendant. Therefore, I need to put quotes around where she starts speaking and where she stops. I'll do the same thing with my response, because I'm saying it out loud to her. Notice that I don't put quotes around "she asked" and "I said." That's because you don't actually say those words out loud when you're having a conversation. That brings me to my next rule. Rule number 2. If needed, follow up your dialogue with a tag. The tag are the words that follow what's being said to let you know who said it and how they said it. Let's take a look again at our example. I followed up, "Would you like something to drink?" with the tag, "she asked." That lets me know that the flight attendant is the one asking me about the drink. The tag that follows the next piece of dialogue is "I said." That lets the reader know that the narrator is the one asking for the Sprite. Tags help make dialogue a little less confusing. One tip I'm going to give you is to avoid using the word "said" in your tag. Think of a more interesting way to say it. Replied, yelled, gasped, sighed, muttered, murmured. The possibilities are endless. I used "I said" when I responded to the flight attendant, so I'm going to change it to "I responded." I think that sounds better. The next rule of dialogue that I want to talk about is punctuating the dialogue sentence. Rule number 3. If a dialogue phrase ends with a question mark or an exclamation point, leave the punctuation mark inside the quotations alone. For example, the dialogue sentence, "Would you like a drink?" needs to end with a question mark because it's a question. When I'm writing it in dialogue format, I'm going to leave the question mark alone. I still need to end my tag with a period because it's the end of a sentence. However, if my dialogue sentence would end in a period, if I'm adding a tag, I'll need to change the period to a comma instead. Let's look at the sentence, "Sure, I'll take a Sprite." If that dialogue phrase didn't have a tag, I just put a period at the end of it. However, if I want to add a tag, I'll need to take out the period behind Sprite and change it to a comma, add my tag, and end with the period behind my tag. Once again, the rule is, if you're adding a tag to your dialogue, leave the question marks and the exclamation points alone inside of the quotes. Change periods to commas. We're down to our final rule. Rule number 4 to use when writing dialogue is to start a new line every time a new person speaks. This, along with those helpful tags, helps the reader follow along with who is speaking. In our example, I start a new line when the flight attendant speaks. When I respond, I skip to a new line so the reader knows that a new person is speaking. This, along with the tags, helps the reader keep it all straight in their head. We're ready to try it out together now. Remember, when writing dialogue, rule number 1, only add dialogue where it would be helpful to add something to the story. Rule number 2, surround what's being said out loud with quotes. Rule number 3, add tags to the end of what's being said to make it clear who is speaking. Try something different than just "I said." Rule number 4, when using tags, leave question marks and exclamation points in, but change periods to commas. And rule number 5, start a new line whenever a new person speaks. If you use all of these techniques, you're going to be one step closer